Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
So I share a lot about my personal life here on the podcast, and with reason and purpose. You know, I really share things that have happening and are happening in my life with the purpose and the intention to share that and to include, you know, really what I've learned from that. I think that we learn from each other's lives. I think we learn from stories. I don't think it's about like do these 3 steps to be able to get the life you want or the marriage you want or the relationship with your kids you want. Like I don't feel that's how we really learn. I think if you go back to, without this being a big anthropological conversation, nor do I have a lot of knowledge in this area. However, we know that cavemen and cavewomen had drawings, and they would, you know, hieroglyphics. Like there were a lot of things that were relayed in story format from the beginning of time. And so that's really always been my purpose. Now, I've shared a lot of very raw, definitely real, definitely honest, definitely, for the most part, unfiltered, like all of it. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, the purpose of me doing that is just like, listen, there's a lot of, how can I put this? Bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit in the world. There's a lot of people playing the roles they think they're supposed to play and the parts they think they're supposed to play and showing little pieces of how they would like to be perceived and how they would like to be seen. And to be quite honest, I get so fucking tired of it. I see those things and I don't see it as a judgment. I see it, let me rephrase it. When I see things, I don't see it for the purpose of judging. It's just it's what I see. It's like, I don't know if this has really come from just coaching over the years and as a chiropractor. I think it's just really life experience. I think this is part of the gift that I was born with too, although I think that everybody has an intuitive sense to themselves, but I'm just really, really highly aware of it. And so I often will see things, perhaps not like everybody sees them. And so I can smell stuff that's fake. I can feel things that are just like, something's off here. And I don't always know what it is, but I trust that. I trust that judgment within myself. I trust that voice inside. I trust the guidance I'm getting from higher source with these things. And, so, you know, I share stuff, and it's just, you know, like, it is not easy for me to do this. I would say it has become easier. Vulnerability has not become something that I practice. It's really like, it is a way of life for me. You know, it's like, honestly, I can't have any false conversations. I can't do small talk. I want real conversations. And it's interesting because the more of you that reach out and connect with me often say the same thing. Oh my God, Karen, like just tell, like, I like that you tell it like it is. Like, I want to join your coaching program. I want to apply for your live event. I want to get punched in the face. Like, just fucking tell me the truth. Because there's so much bullshit. There's so much lying. There's so much plasticky, fake in the world. And so my purpose and my intention is to come at you with something that is fresh and real and different and straight up. But what I don't always consider is the people that I speak of in my life, of how that impacts them. Well, specifically, my husband. And, you know, we had a really good conversation today about this. And I didn't really see it. I didn't feel that I was sharing stuff, even if it was about our marriage, that was like never throwing it out of the bus, like none of those types of things. It was never done with a disrespect. But what he shared with me is that there's some things that I have shared that he is just not comfortable with. And it's not for the point of like hiding stuff or, you know, I mean, at first when he shared it with me, I was like, What are you saying? You want me to censor shit? Like anything I post or I podcast? What do you want to see a script? You want to see a copy? Don't do this, please. And as we delved a little bit further into it, for me growing up, I felt very much like my voice was squashed and I was told to be quiet, even though those words weren't really uttered to me. In actions, they were. You're too intense. You shouldn't speak up. A lot of it too I grew up in a generation at least where if girls spoke up, they were bossy, right? Boys are leaders, girls are bossy. Girls shall be, pretty and nice, and girls that speak their mind and maybe go against what everybody else thinks, well, she's just a bitch, right? Like, that was really that. It's still that a little bit sometimes now too. And so when he first brought it up, that was my first reactive, maybe definitely not the most open communication with that. But as we kind of worked through it a little bit more, and I thought about it since that time too, and I'm like, you know what? If he is coming to me and just saying, listen, it's hard for me to say this because I've wanted to tell you, but I know that if I've told you in the past a little bit like, are you going to post this? Or are you going to write about this? Are you going to podcast about this? I'll be like, of course not. Like, it might have been something that's really deeply personal or whatever. And I'm like, of course not. Like, almost as if like, how dare you question my common sense? But yet, what I did not realize is that, again, there are some things that I was just not comfortable with. And so it made me think about this more. I posted inside the Sisterhood, which is a private coaching group that I run. There is a beautiful group of women that are inside that group. I think it's about 65 women in the group currently. And I put up a daily Sisterhood tip, which, by the way, if you want to go check out the Sisterhood, head over to drkarenosborn.com/sisterhood. You can actually sign up for the first 7 days for free. And I put this inside the Sisterhood tip, which was simply this, is like, be aware of the impact that you are making on others. Now, we all understand things like the butterfly effect and how, just like words you put out there, thoughts you put out there, actions, energy that you put out is like that ripple in a pond. Like if you throw a pebble into a pond, then there's that ripple effect. We get that, right? We get that with others, but I wonder sometimes if we really understand the impact that we're making, those that are most important to us in our life, which is our husbands, boyfriends, partners, children. Like, I wonder, I think of a lot of things I've shared about Tyson, and it's in this podcast, and will he go back at some point and be like, why did you say these things? Why did you, I don't know. Maybe when he's older, I'll take the podcast down. I don't know. But I guess I didn't really think about that. And it wasn't like from a selfish standpoint. I said, Dad, listen, know that my intention when I share these things is, you know what? I'm going to be straight up with you. There is a bit of a selfish thing to it and the reason why is I get a lot out of this. There's a lot of things that I think through, that I talk through, that I write through in my writing, that I podcast through in these episodes, and come to some realizations this way, So, in effect, the podcasts, the things I write about, a lot of times is kind of like therapy for me. Now, I know there's a bigger piece to that. That's not the primary intention, but that ends up being the effect of what often happens. But I know that in speaking from a place of real, deep truth, that people connect with it on some level. Some are going to connect and be like, oh my God, I was thinking that, like, I feel that too. I'm not the only one. I don't feel so alone in this world. Some are going to be affected, are going to hear stuff and be like, oh my God, and it'll piss them off. I just know that coming from truth impacts people in some way. And one of my highest core values, if not the top, is connection. Connection to myself, connection to my husband and my children, family and friends, my clients, connection to my world, connection to people that I meet, random people on the street, barista at Starbucks, and most importantly, connection to myself. And so going forward, I will still be sharing a lot here on the podcast. But there might be some things that I really said to Ed, I'm like, well, what's the line? Like, What are you not okay with? What are you okay with? You know? And he said, like, listen, I'm not really sure at this point. And so, you know, we'll kind of figure that out. But the more that I've kind of just been thinking of this conversation, I'm like, you know what? First and foremost, I really need to honor that. Although, this is my life and he's involved in my life, my kids are involved in my life, it's also their stories. And so we'll figure out where that line is going to be, but I thought this would be important to speak into, because although you might not also have a podcast, or maybe you write, or you post things on Facebook, but it could be conversations you have with girlfriends, right? It could be, conversations that you have in groups or something. I don't know, maybe like in Facebook group. It could be things that you text your mom about. Like, there's some other way that you were speaking about your husband and your children, your boyfriend, your partner, that, is maybe okay and maybe it's not okay. And that's up to you and your partner to really figure out. You and your husband, you and your boyfriend, or you and your children. Right? Like, I know a lot of people that they don't post pictures of their kids. They don't talk about their kids as much because they kind of go, you know what, that's their kids' lives or their children's stories. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, you're right in that respect. I mean, I share stuff because, again, it's the stuff about motherhood that I think is never spoken into. I think it's the things about marriage that is often never spoken into. And that has been my intention. But here's your more tip on this whole conversation today is, where is it for you? So for me, it's in it's in this message with Women Wanting More, right? It's in the podcast episodes. It's in where I write on Facebook and post on Instagram and write in the newsletter. But where is it for you that you're speaking into the stories about those that are closest to you, that are some personal stories, that is having an impact on them? Now you might go, wait a second, Karen, it's a private conversation. It doesn't really impact them. It's a really close friend. Like, we share these things. Beautiful. Like, cool. I get it, right? But you need to figure out, where is that line for you? Where is it? So I'll give you like an example. I've never spoken to, I don't think, any friend ever about my sex life. Nor will you hear me speak about it. That to me is just something that is so deeply personal and private and sacred and special and important that I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm just not. To me, that's like a line will never be crossed. And so where is that line for you then, sister? Like, where is it that you really need to consider how your words, how your conversations, how, the way that you're showing up in your life is impacting those most important to you? And have that conversation with your kids, or have that conversation with your husband, your partner, and really figure that out. Listen, there's ways to go about these things and saying, you know what, like it was for me with this conversation today. It was like, what are you saying? I need to censor it? Like, you're going to hold me back and stuff? And I'm like, so that's one way of dealing with it, right? And going into full on bitch mode and angry and all that kind of stuff. And then there's just like you know what, let me just be open. Let me listen to what I'm hearing. And let me digest and just be open and do my best to not bring emotion into the picture, and just really hear that other person in front of me, my children and my husband. So figure out what that is for you and have a conversation with them about it, sister, today. It's an important one. So finishing up, to make sure to get on the Women Wanting More newsletter, sister, I'm going to send you some amazing training videos, 3 to be specific. And these were actually taught inside of a closed Facebook group early this year. They are on how to drop the stories that are holding you back from creating the life you want, how to create new stories, and how to really remember who you are. And so head over right now to drkarenosborn.com/action guide. So that's drkarenosborn.com/action guide. Enter your new email and I'll get you hooked up on those today. In addition, you will be in the loop with everything Women Wanting More, including my upcoming book, which is coming out in a few months. So I will talk to the next episode, sister. A life of more. It's just one step away from you realizing the impact, positive or otherwise, that you're making on those who are most important in your life every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, Subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosburn.com/newsletter.